Good morning. This is Norma Cowie with my A Sunday Thought. This last Friday, I had my birthday, and on Friday evening, we had a pizza garden party with my friends, and my son and one of my granddaughters had come up from the coast also. And it made me realize how often we, for me anyway, that we're not celebrating or doing the celebration that I would normally do. I'm not sure where I got it from, but for the majority of my life, whenever there was a situation, especially when I had my young family and my husband, I should say then husband, and my kids, we celebrated. If something wonderful happened, or something new happened, or something great happened, we would always celebrate. Now, for me, as you probably can tell, food has always been a part of the celebration. Meals, we would pack the kids and we would go somewhere out for a celebration, for a dinner or something like that. Celebration can happen in many, many different ways. And as I've become, you might say, more further on in age, celebration changed a little bit, in the sense that just gathering your friends together and discussing events or creating things that have happened, not only to ourselves but to the world at large. And what it does is give you an emphasis and a feeling of aliveness and a feeling of being aware and really excited that you're alive. Life is really for enjoyment. Life is here for me to celebrate and to be happy with whatever it may be. One of the elements of this Sunday talk came because during COVID, where many of us couldn't go to different places or do different things, in the churches and our spiritual community that I was involved in was all shut down. You're not allowed to meet, you're not allowed to get together, all that sort of stuff. And so what ends up happening is that you end up not celebrating, not coming together to celebrate life. And what ended up happening is that, not that we had a formalized way, but there was ways in which you can celebrate. I have friends that go for walks every day. I have friends that do something where they feel and connected to life, or connected to nature through walks, through other things that they would do. I have lived by myself for quite a long time, and being sort of semi-retired now for a number of years. And until we were unable to go to movie theaters, every Friday afternoon, I would go to the afternoon show, which they usually started between 3 and 4 different shows. I would pick which movie I wanted to see. And you'd say, like, what has that got to do with celebration? Well, first of all, it was me enjoying something that I enjoy. I used to put up movie reviews with the 3 shows that I do now and clients that I do have. Sometimes I just don't have the energy to do some of the research I need to do, etc. But as I begin to feel better and stronger and things like that, I really hope to do that. In fact, my family and friend and we went to see Elvis last night, and I was amazed at how good it was. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like, the time went by like that, and packed. And as a great Elvis fan at the time, and also visited his home, and it was like amazing things happen sometimes. And there's so much to enjoy and to celebrate. I live within 2 lakes, and quite often I would just, even in the winter, I would just grab something, whether it was an ice cream or some lunch, and just go down by the lake and sit and look at the lake and enjoy and recognize the beauty around and of things of which and wherever is going on. I actually deliberately wore black and white today, and you can't see I've got white shorts, white top, and this is black and white. And why is because we have choices. We have choices about whether we want to be down, which would be the blackness, or whether we want to be light, which represents white. There is a knowingness and an awareness of when we start, might say, falling away from being bright and light and look at things to look forward to. I found for myself, and I remember I traveled a lot in my years. I ran a business that had us traveling. I traveled anyway because I like to travel. I do. And then when everything got compressed and I just couldn't get on an airplane and go wherever I wanted, I mean, it was really depressing in lots of ways. And so a little bit of darkness came in, a little bit of darkness, a little bit of depression. And yes, I've had my bouts of depression through the years over one thing or another, especially when I was younger, actually, believe it or not. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that we have choice. We have choice. We can choose not to look for things that we want to enjoy ourselves with. We can choose to be miserable, or we can choose to remember that we are lights, that there are us, and to look at where we can find enjoyment. Right now, many in my Wednesday talks in particular, I talk about my flowers that I have this summer, and they're just out this window. And you can tell I'm by the window because of my blind. I always have that streak of light. I haven't figured it. Well, there's no way I can cover it up because the blind doesn't quite get all. But there's beautiful sunshine out there, and my flowers are just right now. They had a little while of problem because we had a very wet, kind of dull spring, and the flowers were like not responding too well. And then now heat came, and boy, everything just blossomed and came really, really well. And it gives me great pleasure. And the thing is, again, we talk about celebration. Celebration brings pleasure. And so it's about looking at your life to see where are your pleasure moments. What is it that gives you a feeling, oh, I'm glad I'm alive? What is it that brings about satisfaction on the inside out? I've been watching a tennis final match. That brings me great pleasure because my son is was ready to leave to go home, came in, and I will watch the end of it after I've done this because I like to have my own mind because I'm a very timely person. I always like by Sunday morning by 10 to have these out. So I watched a little bit of tennis. I visited with my son and granddaughter before they're leaving to head back to the coast. And I have pleasure and pleasurable things that make life worthwhile, that give the reason why you work, or that's not the reason why I work. It's because it gives me great pleasure to know I can help people through crises and transform the transformation they need so that they can get pleasure out of life, so they can make it more than what we want. So this morning, I probably don't have a lot really, to keep going because I want you to understand the celebration of life, the celebration of your beingness. I know on Wednesday, what I'm planning is to speak again about different lives and the impact it has on this life now. And I don't really want to get into that at this moment, but that's sort of I find my mind going. I stream a lot of these talks. I have some basic idea what I want to talk about, and I just I just start talking and see where it goes. And this really wants to point out of where and how do we celebrate this life that we have. We've chosen, whether we know it or not, to be here in this life, in this circumstances, facing some of the crises, I guess, we face. But we also have this phenomenal connection to our universal love force that adds our dimension of being and celebrating, can be celebrating in many ways. For many years, I used to celebrate with red wine. That has not happened for a lot of years now because I found that I have a little bit of addictive personality, and so I was using it too much. The key is to do what gives you pleasure, what brings you happiness, what brings you maybe into with other people where you can celebrate together. But no matter what, know that you can celebrate that at this point you're alive, experiencing and knowing that you are loved, that you are important, that you are precious. And what I want to say is make sure that you have a great time today. Sunday, not everybody has a day of quite rest, but it's like a day of celebrating life. And if it's not Sunday, make it another day where you get to celebrate being alive enjoying the pleasures of life, of what is offered and what is there. Wishing you well. Thank you. And I'll be back tomorrow night with my mental mind treatments, and again on Wednesday. Lots of love. Blessings.